I'm your window shopper. I suck up for your novel. I'm wearing your goggles. Virtual reality. It ain't what it cost you. It might be $1. As long as it shocks you. Memory, electricity, divine, delicate stuff. That little souvenir. Can I still call you? To memorize the way you shock things out, the way you feel. Just wanna feel. Hey, don't be afraid to catch feels. Just nothing to feel. I know you ain't afraid about feels. You was gonna catch feels. Straight up. Feels with me. Goddamn, I know you love to make an entrance. Do you like getting paid attention? You mix the wrong guys with the right intentions in the same bed, but it still feel long distance. Hey, look at.
All right. All right. Hello, my dear. How are you?
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
I hear
How
you
are
went to
you?
Traverse City today or this weekend?
Well, we went up Friday and their cherry festival started, but also the Blue Angels were there this weekend.
Oh, sweet. All right. Yeah, we get Battle Creek. Well, if for anybody that's outside of here when we listen out of Battle Creek, we get the Thunderbirds this year. So that's what I've heard. So I heard the Blue Angels are sweet though. That'd been fun.
Yeah, it was good. That's awesome. Good weather. Yep.
How'd Sadie like it? It's pretty cool.
Oh, she loves it. She has earmuffs that she wears.
Yeah.
And we were sitting on the beach while we watched them. So she was playing in the water and the sand. She was good.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, Traverse City is amazing that way.
Yeah.
That's right. Shoot. Well, hopefully. All right, sweet. So I think I got everything. So I'm excited. We got our first interview next week, Amy. We're gonna do it. It'll be pretty sweet. So
cool.
I got a couple of them dialed up. I've been reaching out a little bit. For those out there that are listening, or like as we go, if you have somebody that's been through an extraordinary time. So like I'm looking for people that have done some amazing stuff. I have a lot of them, so I'm going to try I try to reach out to those people and have them come on. It's also part of our so these now I figured out how to do it. It's cool. So if you go to the Prize Inside on podcast and you find that, it's like a little cartoon character of myself or whatever, then you'll know that's the podcast that we have. But I've taken these and putting them in actual recording, the audio part, and then we put it on there too. So if you missed this one, you can pick it up on the podcast stuff. I love podcasts, so I've always liked doing that. But one thing that we will have in there, you'll see other episodes that I do throughout the week on chiropractic philosophy and those kind of things. So just to let you know that it's very, very fun. So tonight is about the TMJ, which is one of the most complex joints in the human body. It will go through it. I got some pretty good explanation. Not a lot of I try to stay out of the weeds as far as anatomy goes, but the best we can do to understand the mechanics of what's occurring there. So anyway, with that, we will say I've found 3 different things. One is kind of hilarious. So people that are doing like more of a high animal protein diet. So people that are doing a high animal protein diet, you have to watch your calcium balance. You get almost too much calcium. So a lot of times it's good to know what to supplement. Remember, calcium, magnesium are kind of a big deal together, and their ratios have to be good. Calcium in general should be. So you want to make sure you get, you kind of counteract that, because you can actually increase your calcium too much. And it, like, what we talked about before is one reason kidney stones happen is an imbalance in these type of things. So you can have Remember those oxalates that kind of build kidney stones that we kind of talked about before. Calcium can do a similar thing. So if you have too much calcium, you can have a problem. So just remember that. And then this one's hilarious because this one's brand new. I don't even know how to say it. So it's astaxanthin. Astaxanthin. It's something they discovered in lobster, shrimp, and salmon. None of those hurt my feelings. And because they have astaxanthin, this element or whatever, a part of those shrimp, lobster, salmon, it increases longevity. So making sure you get that stuff in your diet, darn it. That one, those are all some of my favorites. So that's an easy one. So remember, it increases longevity. So that's pretty cool. Another one that was kind of active on I guess the social media stuff is activated charcoal. So people were doing it in different ways, like actually having bread with activated charcoal, a lot of different ways of people ingesting activated charcoal. This is actually a real thing. You can actually detox from like unwanted things like heavy metal toxicities, those kind of things. But having charcoal, like activated charcoal, is a nice little black powder that some people swear by, and the data actually shows that that's a correct thing. So you want to make sure you're on that. Maybe adding it to there, anything that helps with detoxing your body without having to do stuff. But right now, I think there's a big push for it in food stuff. So that's kind of cool. So those are the three I had tonight. Any questions on those, Amy?
Nope.
All right, perfect. All right, let's get in it. All right. Let me get rid of this. Okay. And then, all right. So here we go. So we're going to talk tonight about the TMJ. So one of my friends I always laugh about, he's a chiropractor in Seattle. He always makes fun of me. Or we always said it in school as we were learning this. All of us have TMJs, which is temporal mandibular joint. So when somebody says I have TMJ, we always jokingly say, yes, you do. You have to have pain. So it's a TMJ disorder or a problem. So everybody has the TMJ, the temporal mandibular joint, and what we can do about it holistically, but you have to understand what is occurring there to really dive in. And so hopefully tonight will make a lot more sense of why this occurs, because I have a feeling, I'm not there yet, but I have a feeling this has a lot to do with our sleep apnea situation. But so as we go, we'll talk about it. All right. So what are we going to go over? We're going to go how the mechanics of the TMJ work. What happens if the TMJ joint is not working properly? What can we do at home? Maybe some cool little things. And how do we remove interference like we would holistically in the chiropractic framework of vitalistic? Remember, the body needs no help, just no interference. So we have to figure out what that means as far as TMJ, interferences that aren't allowing it to work correctly. So that's where we're at. All right. So here we go. I think this works. All right. Here's the mechanism of how the TMJ works. Oh, sweet. It worked. I like embedded something. It was cool. All right. Here we go. Pretty simple.
Temporomandibular joint, the TMJ, is the joint between the lower jawbone, the mandible, and the temporal bone of the skull. The TMJ is responsible for jaw movement and is the most used joint in the body. The TMJ is essentially the articulation between the condyle of the mandible and the mandibular fossa.
While we're watching this, I want you to see that disc. See where it's purple? That's what you want to watch, okay? So they call that a disc. So it's a little hard cartilage piece in there. So just to let you know.
A socket in a temporal bone. The unique feature of the TMJ is the articular disc, a flexible and elastic cartilage that serves as a cushion between the two bone surfaces. The disc lacks nerve endings and blood vessels in its center, and therefore is insensitive to pain. Anteriorly, it attaches to lateral pterygoid muscle, a muscle of chewing. Posteriorly, it continues as retrodiscal tissue, fully supplied with blood vessels and nerves. The mandible is the only bone that moves when the mouth opens. The first 20 millimeters opening involves only a rotational movement of the condyle within the socket. For the mouth to open wider, the condyle and the disc have to move out of the socket, forward and down the articular eminence, a convex bone surface located anteriorly to the socket. This movement is called translation. The most common disorder of the TMJ is disc displacement, and in most of the cases, the disc is dislocated anteriorly. As the disc moves forward, the retrodiscal tissue is pulled in between the two bones. This can be very painful as this tissue is fully vascular and innervated, unlike the disc. The forward dislocated disc forms an obstacle for the condyle movement when the mouth is opening. In order to fully open the jaw, the condyle has to jump over the back ends of the disc and onto its center. This produces a clicking or popping sound. Upon closing, the condyle slides back out of the disc, hence another click or pop. This condition is called disc displacement with reduction. In later stages of disc dislocation, the condyle stays behind the disc all the time, unable to get back onto the disc. The clicking sound disappears, but mouth opening is limited. This is usually the most symptomatic.
All right. So you see that piece. All right. Cool. Okay. I just want to make sure I don't like bust this up. Last time I think it's a license situation. So I want to make sure I do it right so I don't like tick them off. So
Good idea.
hey, that's it. I know. So anyway, so these other ones are pretty quick, but you saw the idea, right? So you saw the motion within those situations. This one's just the motion. But I wanted you to show, sorry. Okay. So this one is all about looking at the muscles, okay? So seeing the muscles on the outside of it. So we're going to go, so we understand the disc piece. Okay, here we go. Right in here. Okay, so now we can see all those. Look at how huge those muscles are. They're some of the biggest muscles for they are the biggest muscles given to a small joint in the human body by far. And it makes sense because of the power you need for chewing and all those kind of things as well. But one of the things that happens is this imbalance that can occur there. So right now we're just kind of looking at um the muscle situation there. And so what we want to do is, I think this is my last one. Let's see if this has, yeah. So I wanted on this one, I just want to show right there. Okay. So let me move it back just a bit. I know it's kind of creepy. We're looking at like skulls all the time. But one of the things that you have to understand about the why this is such a critical piece to all things. This causes so many problems in healthcare in general because of one major thing. One major thing is that, let me put this on the screen a little bigger. The It's the only joint that has to work perfectly together on either side of your human body at all times. And when it doesn't, that's when you have those problems with the little disc that was shown in the previous video, or situations like that where you have these different these muscle imbalances. So what occurs is when we get our those two bones that are supposed to move perfectly in hinge motion like that, and one is off just a little bit, you start getting these imbalances that occur. And so what's cool is there's a lot of good options holistically for this situation. The problem is no one knows about them. And so tonight is that night that I want to talk about them, because no one knows. A great percentage do not know that chiropractic, different physical therapies like muscle massage therapy, a lot of muscle work can really, really help this situation out. So I wanted just to introduce you to the anatomy of that, as we go forward. So, all right. So this one, if we look at this, I picked this. This is what we call in our world. This is just an image, nothing special, but it's what I see every day. It's called an A to P open mouth. So this is a X-ray view where we make you open your mouth. Okay, so you open it up, and the reason we do that is to see the top two bones of your neck. So the one that's called the atlas, and the other one's called the axis. But it also gives us a hint into another world that a lot of times we miss, and now our office does not. But a lot of times you'll see this on there as the patient is opening their mouth. You can see on this X-ray, and I got another one. If that does not turn out too great, you can see how it's not perfect. It's not like lined up correctly. It's like kind of off to, like, let's say your left. So what it looks not perfectly aligned in there. And so that is one thing we can actually look at to see how your joints of your TMJ are working. All right. So this is another wet situation. So these are two necks. Oh, that was supposed to be a lot. Okay. So sorry, I thought I got a different one. So one of the other ways to look at your TMJ that a lot of people don't think about is a cervical spine. In this one, this is like what we would consider a really good neck curve in both pictures. Okay, so they put these little lines there to show you kind of where the spinal cord would go and like how these all kind of line up that way. What I want to focus in is look at the jaw, the edge of your jaw, your like corner of your jaw, and see how that aligns up there. Okay. So as we go forward, we're going to talk about a lot of those kind of things. So looking at that, that shows you a good neck curve and where the jaw should sit in there. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. So this is a bad neck curve. Okay. This is straight. This is what they call like military neck. So much more common than you'd possibly imagine. We see it every day. The amount of stuff that we have with tablets and computers and everything forward facing. Look, we lose our curves very, very easily in today's society. But also look at the jaw, like where it's different. Like if you went back, you saw the jaw was kind of in front of that nice curve, right? Well, this one you're stuck, and you're actually having to shift your big skull around to get good positioning. So that is one thing that you must look at. You can't address the TMJ without understanding the mechanics of somewhat of the neck that is going out there. Okay. So this is where it could get super complicated, but we don't have to make it this way. Look how many dang muscles are attached to this area. Dear Lord. Like, one of the most complex motions of the human body is how the skull is able to rotate, do all these different things on your neck. Okay. It should amaze all of us. One of the things you have to understand, though, is they're all connected. One of the reasons why TMJ is such a crucial thing is it's so related to migraine headaches. It's not even funny. And you don't even have to have jaw pain to have it cause all these. Look at these muscles. If you had some kind of misalignment in that jaw, how would you not have other issues all over? You can see the symmetry of all of it. Amy knows the front ones, which are fascinating. In the massage therapy world, these are called your your scalene muscles, your SCM, which is your sternocleidomastoid, all those things. But they're all attached somewhere within the jaw and the front of the face to allow you to turn your head either direction. Okay. So if my jaw is off, it's going to affect everything. It's going to affect all these different areas, right? So we just have to be aware of how much the TMJ means to us and making sure that it's an important thing we get checked out. Okay. So here's a nasty TMJ. Okay. So part of this is a neck issue as well. Oh yeah, I put these up there. Okay. So this one is where you can kind of see this TMJ is way off, right? Now, this one's way off because of a different situation. Their neck is way off. Okay. So this one, that little L means it's the left side of that person. So basically, instead of having their head here, they're tipped hardcore to the left, right? Or, to the right, I'm sorry. And so with that side being so exposed, that TMJ is going to track back to the middle. And so what happens a lot of times, if we have our neck be off either direction where our head is sideways, our jaw has a tendency, and depending on how long it's been there, to start gravitating towards center. And so you can have these major problems that way. So I just use some images off of Google Images for this stuff. That's why there's all these cool, it's like kids. I wish I had these in school. Oh my gosh, YouTube and all that stuff. Dang, these kids got lucky. They had all these like ways this stuff moves. We had to learn from like plastic models. So let me bring this one, I believe. Let me see what this one is.
It's everything you wish for. Your sight.
Sorry, guys. I got nailing with it. Okay.
Welcome to anatomy.app, Explorer. Today, let's talk about the cervical spine.
So I just want to show you this part. So we're going to go into the cervical spine. And we're just going to do the motion, okay, without the muscles there. So think of the jaw while we're doing this, right? So here's a good neck curve. See where that jaw is, right? But if I get stuck in that position, right, you're going to have the jaw have to change its position as well. So that's how your neck is supposed to move. Let's see. So that's your flexion and extension. This is extension. Yep. So this is extension. And what a lot of times occurs, these two aren't as big a deal as the next one. So we're going to get into, so this is lateral flexion. Okay. So lateral flexion is the side to side motion of our body that we can do very well. Now, the problem is if our spinal bone motion doesn't sit right in there, we start having a lot of issues coming into you can see how that could alter your center of gravity. This is rotation. Rotation's another big one. It's kind of amazing how your body put all that together. I love that part. So, all right. Yeah, especially the Atlas and Axis. It just blows my mind. All right, so let's look at this one. Same thing. We're looking at the rotation and seeing how the jaw. And right now, we're not as worried about the cervical, right, as we are about that jaw. So the reason I grabbed these are they're the best motion to see the thing that no one sees. So that's what you guys are on here for. So as we go, we're looking at the jaw, okay? And okay. All right, let's go to, all right, we don't need to do all this. Okay, yeah. So that basically you get the idea. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right. So the biggest thing is what happens when the TMJ is not working properly. So many times we don't know that we have a jaw problem until either it get sometimes you never know. And that's what's so crazy. The amount of times I see it and figure it out for the person when they had no jaw pain or anything. But the amount of, let's say, migraine headaches is massive, right? And so that is the one. The migraine headache situation is absolutely massive. Um, teeth problems, grinding different teeth, neck and back pain, obviously. After you see all those neck and those muscles that are attached in that upper back and neck, it's weird that it could be there, right? But that's where it's at. Noises, what we talked about, clicks and pops, right? So you hear those clicks and pops. You saw how severe that little disc can get stuck in there, causing, and the people that have had this, it's horrific. Um, the pain that disc is slipping like that can be just enough to get surgery. Let's just say that. So a lot of times that disc is it's really tough to get a good situation, even in the medical world, of fixing that situation. So that's where we come in. Digestive sounds crazy, but when you have the neurology of the mouth screwed up, that's where digestion starts, right? So all of a sudden we can't break down the food from the saliva. That can lead to all kinds of different things. Depression, anxiety. There's so many things, guys, that the TMJ is kind of, when it's not working properly, it can be a huge situation. I think this is where, let me see, if not here. Okay. So before we go into this part, which is some exercises we can do, Amy, we have so there's some emotions linked to this as well. So we understand the physical, right? So something could happen to your cervical spine, something could happen to your actual jaw, all those kind of things. But what emotions would we like to add?
There's again a whole page and a half about the jaw, but one specific section about TMJ. Let's see. It says, I must ask myself if there is a gap, a difference between what I think and what I dare to say openly. I am experiencing an inner duality between telling or hiding the truth in my deeper feelings. There is a distortion between my emotions and my thoughts. I am torn between what I would like to do and what I must do. The dreams I used to have about my future life are totally different from the reality, and great disappointments and questionings follow from this. I am losing hope of reaching my ideal as an individual or a couple in society. The positive affirmation, I accept to express myself freely. I am fully guided in what I have to say, and I reclaim my rightful place. I live in honesty in my heart and in truth.
Awesome. So that's good stuff. So you can see there are things that you can do to see where that situation is. We're going to go through some exercises. There's not a lot out there. So I'm going to walk you through a few. The video, I think we'll skip the video actually, because I think it's okay, but I think we'll do a stop here.
Do you
because
I'll go. Sorry, I know you have what you can do at home, but what about how we can help in our office?
Oh yeah, we're going to do that right after this part. Because what we need to do, it's more, if you have a serious TMJ issue, honestly, it's way better to come in and get evaluated. There's no doubt in my mind. But we have to get there first, get you to understand how important it is to you. But here are some stuff. Let's go over that first then. Let's do that. So in our office, you have the chiropractic aspect where we work on it. You can actually adjust the TMJ very easy. It's complex. It's a little more, it's tricky. It's one of those that takes a little bit to get you going. However, there is an answer. One of the coolest things is now that we have, massage and the physical, like Amy is the chiropractic assistant. A lot of times too is we need to fix that muscle memory, right? So the muscle memory is the key to understanding. And so we actually created a entire TMJ package that you do on a pretty consistent basis, because that's what it takes. So you take this consistent situation where we just keep training, keep adjusting, keep doing muscle, keep doing the exercise, and you do it over and over and over again until your body makes the new epigenetics. It makes a new program that allows you to have your jaw in the proper framework. And the results on this are astonishing. I have a lady named Kay. This is a true story. I'll tell this story right now. So I want to tell Kay, well, I want Amy to know that it's Kay that I'm talking about. So Kay is fantastic. She's been with before me even, with Dr. Geimer. Been doing chiropractic her whole life. One day she comes in and she asked me about her jaw, and I said, "Well, absolutely, we can check it out." She was very concerned because what she was told was she was going to have to fly to the certain specialist in some place out west, and it was going to cost about $35,000, and they were going to actually break their jaw. And so they're going to fracture the jaw to set the bones back to where they thought it would be good. Now, we have, as a family, have a huge experience with this. One of Rachel's very, very close people, I might have her on at some point. Very close people in her Canadian family actually went through with and had the jaw broken.
Oh.
It did not fix crap. It made it probably worse. It made the amount of next step surgeries for a long, long time, next step therapies. Maybe she got some kind of relief out of it. I don't know. But when the situation, and she probably would never say, like either direction. But knowing and watching her suffer through what she was going through, and hers was bad. I mean, it was, horrific in that sense, and so to see that jaw broken, I knew there had to be a different way, no matter what we could do. So Kay, I told her, like, let's adjust go once a week for, as long, and try to get this thing settled down. Well, with hers, we kept doing it and doing it and doing it, setting the TMJ, setting the TMJ. This is even before I even had like a chiropractic assistant that could do the other muscle stuff. We probably would have had even better results that way. But then she's better. She's so much better. I couldn't tell you when, but we check it every time she comes in. She comes in once every 3-4 months or whatever. That's her style. And we check it each time, and it's kind of crazy. And I'm talking, she's up there. She's in her older time, beyond Medicare. Let's say that. And so you can recover from this. You can absolutely recover. And so it's a big, big deal to to get it addressed, and your body, because those muscles are so big, but they're uniform, right? So sometimes you can see massive changes. So just to let everybody know, that's what we have at the office. And so tonight, so from here, we'll do that little exercise thing, and then we'll go on from there. So the exercises are pretty simple. How are you going to know if you have even a TMJ thing? Let's say you have headaches, but you don't know if your TMJ is involved. One of the ways to see it is to stand straight in a mirror and look and see if your jaw line, let's see, my camera is so off. Like, it's not like perfect to me, but so you want to be here, right? And we want to open our jaw and close it. Now, I typically do this, and so I'm pretty straight, but I think it's the camera angle or whatever. But it could be me off. But you see, you're watching your jaw guide down as far as it can open and back up. Now, some people will have weird movement patterns in that jaw. Sometimes it'll look straight, and then it'll do this like weird go back and forth, like it's like resetting throughout. So those are two major ones to look for. Now, with exercise type situations, the only thing I want you to do, because sometimes these can be, because of the areas, they're a little trickier to find. The first one is just to practice that. If you are off, you just go up and down. And you try to stay straight, consciously looking in the mirror and staying straight. Okay. The other one that I really like, people that suffer with TMJ that causes the headache, is to find the trigger points in those big, huge muscles they showed. Right. So you'll find like little places, probably in your hairline a lot of times, and you'll feel around. And if you have an issue, you can hold it and you can find those trigger points and hold it for like 7 seconds or so. Same thing in here. You want to kind of go in there, you'll probably find more in this area, right? So if you look at my face this way, this way. So we're going into that big, huge muscle from here to here. And you're trying to find those trigger points in there. Huge relief. Now, the big thing is like most of these are the reason this is going to be temporary fix no matter what kind of exercises you do. Is if it's been there a really long time, there's a lot more that has to be done in the muscle and all those kind of things. That's why a deeper therapy, like the gua sha that Amy does, the muscle therapy that happens there has to be integrated, because a lot of times, like we say, the programming of that muscle is so deep and tight that it's a very big issue. Okay. So those are two pretty good ones. Let me look and see if we want to go into. All right. All right. So the trigger point work that we went over there, but mostly understanding that TMJ is a very complex issue. One of those that it should be evaluated, even if it doesn't hurt your, all those different symptoms. Have your chiropractor check you. Let's just have it like say, hey, how's my jaw doing? I was watching this live. Can you check it and see, how is it sitting as far as alignment goes? The other thing I really like in this situation is muscle relaxing herbs. Okay. So there's nothing that says, oh, TMJ herbs, right? But muscle relaxing herbs at night, situationally. Chamomile is my favorite. Hops and valerian. Valerian root is another way to say it. So those are three herbs that we can talk about, as far as like a muscle relaxer. Because a lot of times one of the problems with the TMJ muscles are so powerful that they have a hard time relaxing. And so that's kind of a big deal. So like make sure you understand, like that's partly the reason it happens, is because once something happens to that little tiny joint back there, those muscles kind of freak out and tighten, and that's what could cause some of the major pains in there. Okay. So, like what we talked about, we have to incorporate things that remove the interferences. And that's what our office does, right? So we're all about trying to make sure your cervical spine, your spine in general, your TMJ, all those things are working at proper function that allows those muscles to have the right neurology that will allow it to work correctly. Muscle treatment to release the muscle memories. It's not about just a trigger point thing. It's about making sure that those muscles actually they fire correctly on either side, because if you've known somebody that's had TMJ, they don't even understand. Sometimes they don't even know how to describe the major symptomology that's there. Good example is I had a guy with his entire face was, one side of his face was numb. Not a stroke, not even what they call Bell's palsy, which is another thing that chiropractic helps a lot with neck adjustments and those kind of things. But it was complete facial numbness on his one side, and he just could not figure it out. He had everything else, and we finally figured out that it was that situation where, like it was his TMJ was causing this neck issue that constantly happened to him. And so if being a chiropractor, I got to find the interference, right? So his TMJ was actually bad enough to where it was causing his neck to cause the reflex out of that. So that's where it was interesting. It's like chicken or the egg kind of situation there, but that's how it goes. And then what we talked about a little bit before, the emotional release tension that Amy kind of brought up, though that can be a big thing. Like it's a very stress. We hear it all the time. You grit your teeth. Uh, like there's a lot of situations in life that maybe that's how you're programmed to react to some type of stresses in your life. So there is that pieces, I think. Okay. So we're at that point. So what are we going to do for a 1% improvement tonight? So try some of those exercises. Remember the straight up and down. The biggest thing is more of a self-evaluation to see if does your chin move over from center from your nose, right? And from your sternum. If it does, it's probably something to get checked out. Huge thing. Get it checked out. Don't be afraid to ask. Whoever you see chiropractically will love that you ask, because you could have a headache every day and not know that this is a big part of why that's occurring. And then do those self-movement patterns in a mirror and we'll be really, really good. So remember to get evaluated. That's the biggest thing on this one. So, all right. I think that's all I got. Yep. So, Amy, do you have any questions? Because it's kind of a big topic, actually. So
Yeah.
I didn't know how it'd go.
It is.
There's so much that unfortunately you do need help on. It's not one of those like 1%er that we can improve, like back strengthening or anything, because
Yeah.
it can be so complex. The other thing is to remember, and I've been doing this a lot because I even forget this. Check your kids. Check your kids. That's a huge deal because like if mom or dad had TMJ, kids might have had that program that kind of led into something like that. So we want to make sure we get our kids evaluated as well. Now, most of the time, well, I'm going to bring up two. Most of the time, theirs is just a cervical spine issue, getting that neck kind of rearranged in the right direction helps a ton. And so that way they don't end up with those TMJ problems. The other one that is super interesting, Amy and I know this because of experience with the TMJ. There's certain dentists out there that have the concept down where there's a lot of different treatments out there. And I'm not bashing any because I don't know all of the different ones the dentists have. The one I'm very familiar with, we have a doctor in the area that knows what I'm talking about. So we're going to explain it here. So if my head as a kid was tipped this way, okay, and then my jaw naturally started going to the gravity line and created the situation, right? I should have brought a jaw thing. But anyway, so that jaw sits where the gravity goes. What occurs over time is that one side of the teeth where they hit are going to grind away. The other side of the teeth are going to stay long. So as the chiropractor is putting the jaw in, when those teeth hit, one side is shorter than the other. That can happen. And a lot of times that goes miss as well because of the chronicity. We think of it in terms of, hey, it's been there a week, it's been there 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And so a lot of times we have a dentist that can actually, he goes in and measures that out so that he can actually grind down the teeth on the one side to match. Once that occurs, that is really, really good because we see it a lot. The bite splint sometimes helps, sometimes it does not. That's usually everybody's go-to. The problem is if all this other stuff is sitting there, how is a bite splint going to help that? Like especially if your teeth are uneven side to side, right? So all of a sudden I stick a bite split in and it's going to have those teeth not measured correctly anyway. And so that's one of the biggest issues with those and why they don't work as like this miracle in some cases. Some cases They work fantastic. So that's all I got, I think. Did we miss anything, Amy?
I don't think so. I feel like you covered all the bases.
Okay. Hopefully it made sense. It's weird, like, because it's one of my favorite situations to really, really see a big difference. Um, Biggest thing is just knowing how serious it can be for people. That's my thing is like we go with all these different symptoms of several things. And one of the big ones, I believe, is that. And so I've been actually checking it on my vertigo people as well. So just to see what it shows up. Why is that occurring more often? Why are we have vertigo? We probably will do that at some point as well. So forgot about vertigo. That one's a big one right now. So
Hmm.
that'll be interesting. So, all right, cool. I think we did good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, you have a great one and catch up
You
from your
too.
Traverse City.
Yeah.
Our air show's coming this week, so we'll hear some
Yep.
good stuff. It'll be
Yep.
super fun. And then next week is our interview, so that'll be really cool. I'll give you a little sneak peek. He's a retired police officer, and he has started a company. I want to call it a company, but it's really about helping people, and it's fantastic. So if you want to look up some of his stuff, I think his app is actually Impact, and he's got a whole, like, I think all of it going, but he helps a ton of people, and so it's a really good story. Um, can't wait for that. That'll be really fun. So
Yeah, that'll be
anyway,
good.
other than that, yeah. All right. Have a good night.